Hello everyone, my name is Rick and welcome to my first video on this new reaction channel. Today we'll be watching the Unbiased History of Rome Part 1 by Dovahhatty, and we will be exploring the Roman mythology, which is a very interesting subject indeed. Now, I'm aware of Dovahhatty's satirical style and it's really funny. I haven't watched all the videos, so it's not, but I have watched some, so it's not a completely blind reaction, but I still hope to be able to provide some insight along the way. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started.
There once was a dream to purge this rotten world from the barbarians infested, a dream called Rome. Thousands of years ago, the world lived in a dark age. Europe, like the rest, was a complete shithole, with barbarians.
Yeah, obviously he's exaggerating just a tiny bit, but yeah, it's true that before Rome and Roman civilization, there really wasn't any great Western or Northern European kingdom or empire which could rival the sophistication of the Eastern empires, like Egypt, like Mesopotamia, and the like, famous Bronze Age civilizations. Now, there had been Greek colonies here and there, especially on Sicily, for example, but there really hadn't been any, yeah, like I said, any great, empire in that sense. And that will all change with the advent of Rome.
Of all breeds as far as one could see. Among these vile beasts were the Greeks, savage animals who spent their existence killing, raping, and shitting on each other. The gods were disgusted by what they saw. Their solution was to start again. A new race was built, tailor-made to be perfect, resulting in the birth of the Trojans. Let loose in the middle of the Greek chaos, the Trojans set out to bring order to the place, inventing civilization with the founding of Troy, where they strove.
Now, Troy is interesting here because for the longest time we actually didn't know if Troy actually existed, and it was really thought to be this mythological place until about the 19th century, when a German archaeologist, get his name, but he was able to find the city in 1870, I believe, and it really changed the game when it comes to the history of Troy, when we actually found the city. And they've done excavations there multiple times and discovered that the city has been destroyed and rebuilt a lot of times for the past 4,000 years. Of course, Troy is the site of the famous Trojan Wars, which is a war we don't really know if it really happened, but it is a very important part of Greek mythology and later Roman mythology, the Trojan Wars, that is. Keep going.
Strove to answer the deepest questions of mankind. Physics, philosophy, economics, no matter the mystery,
Sure.
The Trojans mastered it. They were the pride of the gods, attracting the collective envy of the Greeks. It culminated with the kidnapping of the Trojan prince by a Greek queen, whom lusted after his perfect body. To salvage his position, the Greek king twisted the events, tricking the Greek hordes it was Troy who wronged them. Easily fooled, the barbarians encircled Troy, numbering the hundreds of millions. It became known as the Trojan Wars, a series of catastrophic Greek failures. As always, the Greeks turned to divine intervention to achieve their foul goals, taking advantage of Jupiter's fear for Troy's potential.
Now, like I said, there isn't any actual evidence that the Trojan War really occurred or that Troy has been under siege or under attack. It's really hard to tell, with the ruins we have to look at today.
Once in Troy, the Greeks smelled the scent of civilization for the first time, and instinctively hated it. They did what they did best, killing, raping, and shitting without mercy. The rape of Troy would bring an end to civilization itself, were it not for the unsung hero, Anchises. Anchises never shared his people's kindness towards barbarians. The moment he first saw a Greek, Anchises knew peace would never last. Predicting the worst, Anchises impregnated the goddess of beauty using his Trojan charm, resulting in the birth of the man, the myth, the legend himself, Aeneas Charus Maximus.
Yeah, Aeneas is a very minor character. First, I believe he's first mentioned in Homer's Iliad, where he plays a relatively minor role, but later on, the Roman poet and historian, all-around extraordinaire, Virgil, he featured Aeneas, much more heavily in the Aeneid. Is a very famous piece of work from Virgil, and which had a great impact in forming Roman mythology. So, yeah, we'll get back to Virgil later.
The day of the sack, Aeneas woke up from the pile of the woman he was sleeping with, storming out of his house and savagely slaughtering his way through the Greek horde with nothing but his bare dick, all while carrying his elderly father with one hand and guiding the survivors with the other. This heroic act much impressed Jupiter. As an apology, he granted Aeneas the divine destiny to settle in their ancestral.
And of course, Jupiter Optimus Maximus is the god of the gods in Roman mythology. Very important central figure, like I said, in Roman mythology.
Italian lands, where their descendants were prophesied to save the world, and so the dream of Rome was born. Aeneas braved the seas, easily defeating all gods and monsters that stood in his way, making a planned stop at Carthage for resupply. In it, Aeneas was faced against the greatest threat to man's life, the Thought Queen of Carthage.
Yes, famous Dido. Dido is was rather the first queen of the Phoenician city-state of Tyre, in which Alexander had his famous siege in 332 BC, I believe. And it is said that she was the first queen of Tyre. And after various events, she came to flee Tyre and ended up in what would become the Carthaginian Empire in Carthage. And she became one of its rulers. And some of you who have played Civilization 5 may know that Dido is the featured leader of the Carthaginian faction. So, yeah. Also featured very heavily in Virgil's Aeneid. And much of what we know actually comes from the Aeneid about Dido. She really only features in Roman and Greek mythology and sources. So we don't really know all that much about her, if she really even existed, to be honest. But yeah, she is a central character, and I think we'll be hearing a lot from Dido in future videos.
In exchange for the needed supplies, she demanded Aeneas to satisfy her in bed every day for a year, which Aeneas honorably agreed for the greater good. But that paid, Aeneas had to return to his destiny. Dido couldn't accept his departure, but Aeneas insisted, knowing better than to fall prey to a thought. In her rage, Dido burned all his leftover belongings, throwing herself into the fire, cursing their descendants to eternal rivalry, dooming millions to die in the wars to come. Historians to debate if her cruelty derived most from being a Punic or a woman. Escaping Carthage, Aeneas finally arrived in Italy, becoming the king of Alba Longa, after a quick trip to the underworld with his father, killing a barbarian warlord, and banging the local Trojan princess.
Oh, man. You gotta give it to him. He was pretty busy. That's a lot of things all at once.
With her, Aeneas was able to father a pure-blooded Trojan family, a chance unfortunately not granted to his men, leading to generations of miscegenation. The years came and went, leaving Numitor, Aeneas' descendant, to suffer from the consequences, being usurped by his bastard half-barbarian brother. Once again, civilization was on line to be destroyed by barbarian scum, this time output by the birth of the legendary twins, Romulus and Remus, lawful sons of Numitor's daughter, and
yes, Romulus and Remus, the famous twin brothers that is said to have founded the city of Rome. I'm sure we go into more details. We can talk about it later.
The god Mars. The usurper was too much of a coward to kill them himself, much less in the front of the god of war, giving the twins for a servant to go drown in the Tiber River, having the princess assassinated while Mars wasn't looking. But the servant refused to commit the crime, his Trojan ancestry overpowering the corruption from his barbarian side.
You know, if you look at the ancient founding myths and all that, you see a lot of this babies in a basket situation, and yeah, there's a lot of that. It's a very reoccurring story. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Tiberinus, god of the Tiber, took over from there, guiding the young lads to the care of a she-wolf. She raised them lovingly, granting them her wolf-like instincts through the power of her canine titties, all until they were old enough to be adopted by shepherds. As true Trojan descendants, sons of Mars, fed by wolves and raised by stoic shepherds, the twins.
Now, I gotta say, that is a very impressive ancestry. I mean, Mars himself, the god of war. But also pure-blooded Trojan blood, and apparently the objectively best animal family, the she-wolf, and the plebeians, which are alright. You know, you gotta have some of that plebeian ancestry, I guess. But yeah, very impressive ancestry. Supposed ancestry.
Twins grew to be great leaders. Having the admiration of the man and the love of the woman, the twins were envied by the local barbarian Insos. Incapable of competing in either strength, intellect, or beauty, the barbarians sought to employ their only field of advantage, evil. One day, as Remus looked at the stars, pondering the big questions while resting from yet another orgy, the barbarians ganged up on him, capturing Remus by threatening the girls if he tried to escape, delivering him at the hands of the usurper, whom happily imprisoned him. Learning of the act through his wolf instinct, Romulus was outraged. In response, he used his charisma to raise an army with his followers and siege Alba. Despite unarmed and untrained, Romulus' forces shattered through the city's defenses, killing the usurper and freeing the hostages. Claimed as heroes, the twins were taught of their Trojan ancestry by their grandfather, whom named them the rightful kings of the city, an honor they refused. Instead, they set out to build a new city, gathering the last pure-blooded Trojans with them, but no girls allowed. They used their wolf instincts to trace back to their mummy wolf had raised them. Among those 7 hills, history was about to be changed forever. But before it could...
Yes, Rome was famously founded on 7 hills, and I believe that the city was eventually founded on the Palatine Hill, what is known as the Palatine Hill.
A rift had developed between the brothers. Romulus sought to follow in Troy's steps, believing that barbarians could be peacefully negotiated with. But Remus, having suffered the most under barbaric crimes, he knew peace was impossible, fearing that if they followed the exact same path as Troy, they would suffer its same fate. It was a source of great debate between the brothers, their different perspectives generating many...
Yes, and Remus wanted to found the hill on the Aventine Hill, Romulus wanted to find it on the Palatine Hill, and conflict arose, because they couldn't settle the matter, and eventually they turned to augury. And what happened was that Remus claimed to have seen 6 auspicious birds fly away, and Romulus responded by saying, well, he had just seen 12 auspicious birds. And then they got into a fight about what claim was true or not, and eventually Romulus, or one of his supporters, had Remus murdered, and that's why the city is named Rome and not Reem? I don't know. It's something like that.
Many disputes. As civilized men, they attempted to solve it with a bird-watching contest, which resulted in a tie, due to the gods enjoying the drama of their conflict. At any rate, the brothers agreed they at least needed a wall, for if there is one thing the local barbarians hated the most, was the smell of progress.
Now, Rome was famously, even with its walls, very hard to defend, and later on during the Empire, it would really show. It was pretty easy to attack Rome, though somehow it survived Hannibal's invasion, but we'll get there.
Romulus built the base of the walls, Remus built the top. As he did so, one of their followers climbed to the top with him, nearing ever closer. Suddenly, he pushed Remus from the wall. Hearing the screams, Romulus was shocked, rushing to his brother's aid, finding him in fatal condition.
Yeah, I don't need to tell you guys that this is not true, but it's a very romantic way of looking at it.
In his righteous anger, Romulus demanded an explanation, but once he looked closely, the explanation became clear. It was no Trojan, but a barbarian, seeking to do his part in destroying civilization forever. Romulus let him escape, choosing instead to stand by his brother's last dying moment. With his last breath, Remus spoke one last time, naming the city Rome in honor of his brother, whom he named its first king. Drowned in sorrow, Romulus accepted, mercifully ending his brother's suffering. With this harsh lesson, Romulus finally understood Remus. There was no hope for peaceful coexistence, and so, not only had Rome to surpass...
Well, he's right there. Rome did not like to peacefully coexist, and it is a pattern we will see repeated again and again and again. Rome does not coexist. They conquer you.
Troy's greatness, but to spread it to the world, cleansing of the barbarian plague whom sickened it. It was an inevitable war between order and chaos. The barbarians would go on to spread how Romulus murdered his brother for power, a lie most people still believe today. But at least you, my dearest pleb, knows the true history,
yes,
the unbiased history. On the next chapter, Romulus founds the Eternal City with a monarch.
Yes, of course. Everything I've just said right now is pure propaganda. Listen to Dovahhatty. That is the true history of Rome. Anyways, that was the first episode. It's a quick one, about 6 minutes. And in the next part, we will talk about the Roman monarchy, one of the most critical phases in Roman history. So, looking forward to that. Anyways, if you liked the video, please leave a like, comment for the algorithm, and subscribe for more content. Alright, with that said, take care, and I'll see you next time.